I'm Madison, 28 years old, standing outside my childhood home on Thanksgiving with suitcases at my feet. My mother just screamed, "Get out and go live in the streets where you belong." They have no idea their failure daughter runs a tech empire worth millions. As I walk away from their mansion, I decide it's time they learn exactly who they just threw away. Before we begin this story, where are you watching from? Please hit that like button and subscribe if you want to hear how this Thanksgiving disaster turned into the best thing that ever happened to me. Growing up in the prestigious Whitmore family meant one thing: perfection or nothing. My father, Robert, built his investment banking empire from his father's oil fortune, now worth $50 million. My mother, Judith, dominated Boston's real estate scene with an iron fist wrapped in Chanel gloves. Together, they created a household where success was measured in Harvard degrees and seven-figure salaries. My older sister, Victoria, 31 and flawless, graduated Harvard Law with honors and married Christopher, a senator's son. She was the crown jewel, the one who could do no wrong. Every family gathering became her personal showcase, while the rest of us played supporting roles. My younger brother Daniel, 26, committed the unforgivable sin of dropping out of medical school to pursue art. They treated him like a ghost, but at least they acknowledged his existence with their disappointment. Then there was me, Madison, the invisible middle child who dared to choose computer science over law or medicine. While Victoria collected accolades and marriage proposals from political dynasties, I spent nights coding in my dorm room, fascinated by artificial intelligence and machine learning. My parents saw this as playing games, wasting the education they'd paid for. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" became their favorite refrain, followed closely by, "You're throwing your life away on those computers." The irony cut deep because I excelled at MIT, graduated summa cum laude, and received multiple job offers from Silicon Valley giants. But in the Whitmore household, tech meant nothing compared to traditional prestige. My father would introduce Victoria as my daughter, the lawyer, and me as my other daughter. The dismissal stung more each time, especially when extended family would ask what I was still figuring out, as if my career choice was a phase I'd outgrow. The family dynamics grew more toxic after college. While Victoria moved into a brownstone our parents bought her, I chose a modest apartment in Cambridge. They interpreted this as failure, not knowing I wanted privacy to build something extraordinary. Every Sunday dinner became an interrogation about when I'd get serious and join father's firm. Mother would slide real estate listings across the table, suggesting I could at least sell houses if I couldn't handle complex careers. Victoria's cruelty peaked during my senior year when she seduced Blake, my college boyfriend, just to prove she could. She didn't even want him. She discarded him 2 months later like a used tissue. The betrayal cut deeper than losing Blake because it revealed her true nature, someone who derived pleasure from my pain. When I confronted her, she laughed and said, "Everything you have, I can take." Remember that. My grandmother Eleanor was the only one who saw my potential. Before she died, she pulled me aside and whispered, "You have something special they'll never understand. Don't let them dim your light." She left me a small inheritance, which my parents tried to control, but her lawyer ensured it went directly to me. That $100,000 became the seed money for my future, though my family never knew how I used it. The recent tensions escalated when I refused their latest attempt to force me into their world. Father had arranged an interview at his firm without telling me, then raged when I didn't show up. Mother started lying to her friends, claiming I was finding myself in Europe rather than admit her daughter lived 10 minutes away in what she called that shabby apartment. They never visited, never asked about my work, never showed interest in my life beyond how it reflected on them. Meanwhile, I was building something incredible in secret. At 22, fresh out of MIT, I founded Neuralink Solutions with my roommate James Chin. We developed predictive AI algorithms that revolutionized how Fortune 500 companies process data. Within 6 years, we grew from a 2-person startup in my living room to a company with 300 employees across 3 countries. Our latest Pentagon contract alone was worth $100 million, but my family remained blissfully ignorant of my success. I kept my identity as CEO hidden from public view, operating under the company name while James handled media appearances. This anonymity protected me from my family's interference and judgment. They never bothered to Google their own daughter, never wondered why I seemed so calm despite their constant criticism. Their willful ignorance became my shield, allowing me to build an empire while they mourned the daughter who wouldn't conform to their narrow definition of success. Thanksgiving morning arrived with the kind of crisp Boston air that made everything seem deceptively perfect. I chose my outfit carefully, designer jeans and a cashmere sweater that cost more than most people's rent, though my family would never recognize the quality. In my car sat a bottle of Chateau Margaux worth $2,000, which I knew my parents would assume came from a grocery store sale rack. The guest list Mother texted me revealed the true nature of this gathering. Senator Phillips and his wife, 3 of Father's biggest investment partners, and several Society page regulars. This wasn't a family holiday, it was a networking event where children served as props to demonstrate the Whitmore legacy. I steeled myself for another performance, unaware this would be my final act in their charade. Victoria answered the door wearing a Ralph Lauren dress that screamed old money, her smile sharp as a blade. "Oh, Madison, you're early." "How unusual." She ushered me in while eyeing my outfit with practiced disdain. "Mother left something for you upstairs. You should change before guests arrive." In my old bedroom, I found one of Victoria's discarded dresses from 3 seasons ago, a clear message about my place in the family hierarchy. The kitchen buzzed with catered preparations while Mother orchestrated everything like a conductor. When I offered to help set up the presentation system for Father's business pitch, she actually laughed. "Darling, you'd probably break everything. Why don't you arrange the flowers instead? Even you can't mess that up." Victoria chimed in from the doorway. At least she's not living in her parents' basement like most tech people. Small mercies, right, Mother? The formal dining room had been transformed into a stage for family propaganda. Photos of Victoria's law school graduation and wedding dominated the display, while my MIT diploma remained notably absent. Daniel's artwork, despite his talent, was hidden in the back hallway like a shameful secret. The message was clear: only certain achievements mattered in this house. Father summoned us for a pre-dinner announcement, his voice booming with pride. "Before our guests arrive, I want to share some wonderful news. Victoria will be taking over as president of Whitmore Investments next year. We're keeping the legacy in the family with someone who understands our values." The words hit like a physical blow. Despite my business acumen, despite my proven success they knew nothing about, they'd chosen succession based on conformity rather than capability. When I quietly asked, "What about giving everyone a fair chance to prove themselves?" the room temperature dropped 20 degrees. Father's face flushed burgundy, while Mother clutched her pearls in theatrical horror. "Fair chance," he spat. "You had every opportunity we gave Victoria, and what did you do? Wasted it on computers and refusing to join the family business. You live in squalor, have no career prospects, and embarrass us at every social function by having nothing to discuss but your little coding projects." Mother piled on with surgical precision. "Do you know what I tell people when they ask about you? I say you're traveling, finding yourself, because it's less shameful than admitting my daughter is unemployed and playing with computers at 28. Victoria has given us grandchildren prospects, a son-in-law in politics, and now she'll run the company. What have you contributed besides disappointment?" The accusations flew faster now, years of resentment pouring out like poison. Victoria smirked from her throne-like chair, enjoying every second of my humiliation. "Maybe if you'd spent less time with those nerds at MIT and more time learning social graces, you wouldn't be such a failure," she added sweetly. "But don't worry, I'm sure someone needs their computer fixed somewhere." Father stood abruptly, his voice rising to boardroom volume. "You know what? I'm done pretending you'll ever amount to anything. Either you stop this tech nonsense, join the firm as Victoria's assistant to learn real business, or get out. I won't have you poisoning this family's reputation any longer." The ultimatum hung in the air like a noose, designed to break my spirit and force submission. I stood slowly, my voice steady despite the storm inside. "I choose option 3. I'm done pretending too, Father. I'm done pretending your approval matters more than my self-respect. I'm done watching you worship Victoria while treating Daniel and me like defective products. Most of all, I'm done apologizing for choosing a different path than the one you mapped out before I was born. The explosion was immediate. Mother shrieked about ungrateful children while Father's face turned purple with rage. "Get out," he roared. "Get out of my house, and don't come back until you're ready to show proper respect and join this family properly. Go live in the streets where you belong since you've rejected everything we've offered." Victoria helpfully added, "I'll have staff pack her things. We can't have her making a scene when guests arrive." The casual cruelty of it, the way they discarded me like trash, burned worse than their words. Mother threw my coat at me while Father grabbed my arm, physically escorting me to the door. My belongings followed shortly after, thrown onto the manicured lawn like garbage. As I loaded my car, I heard Mother telling arriving guests I'd been called away on urgent business, already erasing my existence from their perfect narrative. Through the window, I saw them toasting Victoria's promotion with my expensive wine, which they'd claimed without question. The family I'd spent 28 years trying to please had revealed their true faces, and for the first time, I felt free to reveal mine. Driving away from my childhood home, I felt the weight of their rejection transform into something else entirely: liberation. My phone buzzed with a text from James Chin, my business partner and COO. "Board meeting confirmed for Monday. Cognition Corp acquisition is a go. You're about to become even wealthier, partner." The timing felt cosmically perfect, as if the universe was confirming I'd chosen the right path. The truth my family never bothered to discover would have shattered their worldview. Neuralink Solutions wasn't just successful, it was revolutionary. Our proprietary AI algorithms helped Fortune 500 companies predict market trends with 92% accuracy. Amazon, Microsoft, and Tesla were among our clients, though all contracts remained confidential at my request. The Pentagon contract I'd secured last month would integrate our technology into national defense systems, a responsibility that dwarfed anything my father's investment firm had ever touched. I drove to my real home, a penthouse overlooking Central Park that I'd purchased last year for $12 million. The doorman greeted me warmly, a stark contrast to the reception I'd just fled. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed Manhattan's glittering skyline, each light representing possibility rather than judgment. This space, with its modern art collection and state-of-the-art technology, reflected who I really was, not the failure my family painted, but a visionary who'd built something extraordinary. My phone rang as I poured myself a glass of wine worth more than the one I'd brought to dinner. "Madison, I know it's Thanksgiving, but I had to call." James's voice crackled with excitement. "The final numbers are in. With the Cognition acquisition, company valuation just hit $3 billion. Your personal net worth is officially over $25 million, not counting the stock options that'll vest next year." I sank into my Italian leather sofa, processing the irony. While my parents had been lecturing me about failure, I'd been finalizing a deal that would revolutionize AI-assisted medical diagnosis. The technology we'd developed could detect cancer cells 3 years earlier than current methods. We were literally saving lives while they worried about social appearances. The company's origin story felt even more poignant now. After graduation, I'd used grandmother's inheritance as seed money, every penny she'd left me invested in the future she believed I'd build. James and I worked 20-hour days from my Cambridge apartment, surviving on ramen and pure determination. When Google offered to buy us out for $50 million after our first breakthrough, I refused. "We're building something bigger than a payday," I'd told him, and he trusted my vision. The media had dubbed me the mystery tech CEO after Forbes featured our company without revealing my identity. The article speculated about who was behind Neuralink's meteoric rise, but I'd carefully maintained anonymity. Only our employees and closest partners knew the truth, all bound by ironclad NDAs. This secrecy wasn't about shame, it was strategic, protecting the company from my family's potential interference. My reflection stared back from the penthouse windows, no longer the uncertain girl seeking parental approval. The empire I'd built employed 300 brilliant minds across offices in Boston, San Francisco, and Tokyo. We'd created technology that mattered, innovations that would outlive any family legacy my father claimed to protect. More importantly, I'd done it without compromising my values or stepping on others to climb higher. A text from Daniel interrupted my thoughts. Saw you leave. Finally standing up to them? I'm proud of you, sis. Left right after you. Want company? His message reminded me I wasn't completely alone in this family warfare. We'd both chosen authenticity over acceptance, though he didn't yet know the full extent of my success. I scrolled through my phone, past emails from CEOs and government officials, past investment opportunities and speaking requests, all addressed to M. Whitmore, CEO of Neuralink Solutions. None of these people knew I was the same Madison Whitmore whose parents had just thrown her out for being a disappointment. The dichotomy felt surreal, like living in parallel universes where I was simultaneously worthless and invaluable. The decision crystallized as I watched the city lights twinkle below. I'd spent years protecting my family from the truth, worried about their reaction, concerned they'd try to claim credit or interfere. But after tonight's performance, I realized they'd forfeited any right to protection. They'd made their choice, and now I'd make mine. It was time for the masks to come off, for the family failure to reveal herself as the success story they'd been too blind to see. I woke to my phone exploding with notifications. Victoria had posted a family Thanksgiving photo on Instagram with a carefully crafted caption, "Grateful for family who shares our values." Sometimes you have to cut toxicity from your life, even when it shares your DNA. #blessed, family first, quality over quantity. The post already had hundreds of likes and dozens of comments from Boston's elite, all praising her strength in dealing with difficult relatives. The digital assassination continued across platforms. Mother's Facebook featured a lengthy post about the heartbreak of raising an ungrateful child who rejected every opportunity. Extended family piled on with their own memories of my supposed failures. Cousin Jennifer wrote about how I'd always been odd, preferring computers to people. Uncle Theodore shared how I'd embarrassed the family by discussing artificial intelligence at his country club dinner, boring everyone with technical nonsense. My marketing director, unaware of my family connection, forwarded me something concerning. "Boss, 3 of our employees got weird LinkedIn messages asking about company ownership. Someone's digging into your background." The names were all connected to Father's firm, suggesting this wasn't random curiosity, but targeted investigation. James called with more troubling news. "Madison, something strange is happening. We've had 5 employees approached by headhunters this week, all offering positions at Victoria Whitmore's new venture capital firm. She's specifically targeting our AI development team." My sister had apparently started her own tech investment company, using family money to try poaching my talent without knowing she was attacking her own sister's empire. The betrayal deepened when I discovered my parents had been taking credit for anonymous charitable donations I'd made through the company. The Whitmore Foundation, which I'd secretly funded with $2 million last year, had Father listed as the sole benefactor in all public records. They'd built their reputation on my generosity while calling me a failure to my face. An encrypted email from an unexpected source changed everything. Cooper Hamilton, the family's estate lawyer for 3 decades, requested an urgent meeting. His message was brief but alarming. "Ms. Whitmore, you need to know what your family is planning. Your sister hired me 6 months ago for something unconscionable. My conscience won't allow me to proceed without warning you." We met at his office that evening, the mahogany panels and leather-bound books creating an atmosphere of old money and older secrets. Cooper looked exhausted, his usual polish cracked by moral conflict. "Your sister came to me in May with a proposal. She knew about your company, Madison. She's known for at least a year and has been planning to take it from you." The documents he spread across his desk made my blood freeze. Competency evaluations, psychiatric assessment requests, financial conservatorship papers, all prepared to declare me mentally unfit to run a company. Victoria's plan was surgical: use my reclusiveness and family estrangement as evidence of instability, then swoop in as the responsible older sister to take control of my assets. There's more, Cooper continued, pulling out financial records. Your parents have been accessing your childhood trust fund illegally. The account your grandmother established should have transferred to you at 25, but they've been drawing from it using forged signatures. We're talking about $3 million that belongs to you. My phone buzzed with a text from Mother that felt like salt in fresh wounds. You were always the mistake. 28 years of disappointment. Victoria deserves everything because she earned it by being a true Whitmore. Don't bother coming crawling back when you're homeless. The cruelty was breathtaking, especially knowing she'd written it while spending money stolen from my inheritance. Daniel called as I left Cooper's office, his voice tight with anger. Madison, I need to tell you something. I've known about your success for 2 years. I've kept quiet because I wanted to protect you from them, but after tonight, you need to know everything. They've been monitoring you, hiring private investigators, planning this for longer than you realize. The final blow came from an unexpected source. Sarah Chin, our housekeeper for 15 years who'd practically raised me, sent a message full of regret. I'm sorry, Madison. They threatened to deport my family if I didn't report on you. I've been telling them about your visits, your calls, everything. Please forgive me. You were the only one who ever treated me with respect. Even the people I'd trusted had been weaponized against me. As I sat in my penthouse processing the scope of their betrayal, I realized this wasn't just about money or status. This was about control, about punishing me for succeeding outside their prescribed path. They couldn't stand that the daughter they'd dismissed had built something beyond their comprehension or reach. The war they'd started at Thanksgiving was just the opening salvo in a battle they'd been planning for years. By 6 a.m. Friday, my war room was operational. The conference room at Neuralink headquarters buzzed with controlled chaos as my legal team, led by Sherman Ross from Ross and Associates, laid out our strategy. Madison, what they've done isn't just morally reprehensible, it's criminal. Fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy, defamation, the list goes on. We're going to bury them in paper and let the authorities sort through the ashes. My forensic accountant, Diane Morrison, pulled up financial projections on the main screen. Here's the delicious irony. Whitmore Investments is hemorrhaging money. Your father's been making increasingly desperate trades to maintain appearances. They're about 6 months from bankruptcy without a major injection of capital. Meanwhile, you could buy them outright with your quarterly dividends alone. The media strategy required careful orchestration. Rebecca Liu, my head of public relations, had connections at every major outlet. When we reveal your identity, it needs to be on your terms. I suggest an exclusive with Forbes, followed by a coordinated release across business platforms. The narrative writes itself. Rejected daughter builds empire, while family fortune crumbles. An unexpected ally emerged when Blake Morrison, Victoria's husband, reached out through LinkedIn. His message was carefully worded but clear. Ms. Whitmore, I have information about your sister that might interest you. My marriage is ending, and I believe the truth should come out. We arranged a secure video call where his revelations exceeded my worst expectations. Victoria didn't marry me for love or even status, Blake explained, exhaustion evident in his features. She has photos, videos from college that would destroy my political career. I was young, stupid, experimenting with drugs at parties. She's held it over me for 7 years, forcing me to play the perfect husband while she conducts affairs with half of Boston's elite. He provided evidence that made my stomach turn. Victoria had been systematically destroying anyone who might threaten her position as the family golden child. Former boyfriends with ruined careers, competitors who mysteriously faced scandals, even a cousin who dared excel at Harvard Law before anonymous accusations derailed her life. My sister wasn't just cruel, she was a calculated predator who viewed everyone as either useful or threatening. The business implications became clear as I reviewed our client list. 3 of Father's biggest investment partners had children working at Neuralink. Marcus Phillips, Senator Phillips's son, ran our East Coast operations. Jennifer Walsh, daughter of Father's oldest partner, led our AI development team. They'd been hired on merit, but the connections created beautiful leverage. One phone call to each parent revealing how the Whitmores had treated their children's CEO would create a spectacular reversal. By afternoon, the counterstrike accelerated. Our legal team filed injunctions freezing the disputed trust fund accounts, while criminal charges were prepared. The IRS received an anonymous tip about Whitmore Investments' creative accounting, triggering an audit that would uncover years of tax evasion. Every defensive move had an offensive counter, chess pieces positioning for checkmate. Daniel arrived at my office with a portfolio that added another dimension to our strategy. His paintings, dark and visceral, depicted scenes I recognized too well. A girl cowering while shadows loomed above, a boy's artwork burning while faceless figures laughed, children reaching for affection that never came. "I've been documenting our childhood through art," he explained. "Every exhibition request I've refused. But now I think Boston needs to see what happens behind those perfect Whitmore doors." Mother's attempt to infiltrate my business came Saturday morning. She appeared in our building's lobby, telling security she was there for a job interview. My assistant called, confused. "There's a Judith Whitmore here claiming she has an appointment with HR. Should I send her up?" The audacity was breathtaking, attempting to spy on a company she didn't know I owned. I watched through security cameras as she waited in our lobby, studying everything with calculating eyes. The modern design, the employee enthusiasm, the obvious success radiating from every corner, it all contradicted her narrative of my failure. When security politely informed her there was no record of her appointment and escorted her out, her face revealed fury mixed with confusion. She'd glimpsed something that didn't fit her worldview but couldn't quite grasp what. The weekend brought more desperate moves from my family. Victoria tried poaching 3 more employees, offering double salaries and signing bonuses. Each attempt failed spectacularly as my staff forwarded her messages to me with laughing emojis. Their loyalty wasn't just professional, they knew my story, understood what I'd built despite my background, and rallied around their CEO with protective fervor. Father suffered what his doctors called a stress-induced cardiac event on Sunday, a minor heart episode that the family immediately weaponized. Victoria posted dramatic hospital photos with captions about how family betrayal can literally kill. The manipulation was transparent but effective, garnering sympathy from those who didn't know the full story. What they didn't realize was that their theatrics were simply accelerating my timeline for revelation. The smoking gun arrived Sunday evening when Victoria accidentally sent an email meant for her lawyer to my company address. Her fingers must have autocomplete to the wrong Madison, a mistake that would cost her everything. The email detailed her full plan: use the competency claim to seize my company, liquidate assets to save father's firm, then position herself as the tech-savvy Whitmore who'd rescued both businesses. The premeditation, the sheer entitlement, the assumption she could steal my life's work, it clarified that mercy was no longer an option. Monday morning brought the full force of my family's desperation. They'd hired Preston and Associates, Boston's most ruthless PR firm, to launch a comprehensive smear campaign. By 9 a.m., anonymous sources were feeding stories to gossip blogs about Neuralink's unstable leadership and questioning the mental fitness of its mysterious CEO. The irony wasn't lost on me that they were attacking their own daughter without realizing it. The false accusations escalated quickly. Anonymous tips to the DEA claimed our offices were fronts for drug operations. The FBI received reports of potential corporate espionage. Every agency found the claims baseless, but the investigations created the appearance of controversy my family wanted. Victoria coordinated the attacks with military precision, still unaware she was assaulting her sister's empire. Wednesday's restraining order was a masterclass in manipulation. Victoria claimed I'd been stalking her, showing up at her home and workplace, making threats against her family. The judge granted a temporary order based on fabricated evidence, including doctored security footage that took my real visit to her office building, where I'd attended a legitimate conference, and painted it as harassment. The legal system she'd studied became her weapon of choice. The business sabotage intensified when Victoria launched her competing firm, Whitmore Dynamics, specifically targeting AI development. She announced it with fanfare at the Boston Tech Summit, positioning herself as bringing Whitmore excellence to emerging technology. Her pitch deck, which leaked to me within hours, literally copied Neuralink's proprietary terminology with slight modifications. She was building a mirror company to eventually claim mine was the imitation. The 35th wedding anniversary gala became ground zero for family warfare. My parents planned a 500-person celebration at the Ritz-Carlton, a testament to their enduring love and successful legacy. The invitation list read like a who's who of Boston society, including every major business leader, politician, and old money family within 100 miles. My disinvitation came via legal notice, barring me from the venue under threat of arrest. Thursday brought Mother to my office building again, this time with a calculated performance. She collapsed dramatically in the lobby, claiming chest pains and demanding to see her daughter. Security called an ambulance while she wailed about being abandoned by ungrateful children. The scene, captured by photographers she'd apparently arranged, painted me as the heartless daughter who wouldn't even see her sick mother. What observers didn't see was her miraculous recovery once the cameras stopped rolling. Her follow-up visit Friday was more direct. She discovered which floor housed Neuralink and talked her way past building security with tears and maternal desperation. My assistant intercepted her at our reception desk, where she delivered an Oscar-worthy performance. "I just want to help my daughter get back on her feet," she sobbed to anyone within earshot. "We're willing to give her $50,000 to start fresh somewhere else, maybe California where the tech people are. She's clearly struggling here." I watched the entire scene from my office, recording every word as she painted herself as the concerned mother trying to help her wayward child. When security finally escorted her out, she left behind a check for $50,000 with "Fresh Start" written in the memo line. The insulting amount, less than I earned in an hour, perfectly captured how little they understood about my actual life. Saturday's Harvard Club luncheon became another battlefield. Father, speaking to fellow alumni, gave an impromptu speech about the challenges of parenting unsuccessful children. Without naming me directly, he described the heartbreak of watching a daughter waste her MIT education on internet fads while her sister built a real career. The crowd's sympathetic murmurs felt like vindication to him, unaware that several audience members worked with Neuralink and knew exactly who their CEO was. The dominoes began falling faster when Father's heart episode became a cudgel. He made the rounds of business programs, discussing how family stress impacted executive health. Bloomberg, CNBC, and Fox Business all ran segments on the Whitmore patriarch's health scare, with Victoria by his side explaining how family disappointments had triggered the crisis. She wore designer suits and spoke in measured tones about forgiveness, while painting me as a villain who'd literally broken her father's heart. The legal escalation reached new heights when they filed for control of grandmother's estate, claiming I'd manipulated a dying woman into leaving me money. The filing accused me of elder abuse, undue influence, and financial exploitation. They wanted not just the inheritance back, but damages for emotional distress caused by my scheme to steal family money. The projection was breathtaking since they'd been stealing from my trust fund for years. My employees started reporting strange encounters. Someone was photographing their cars in the parking lot, following them to lunch, asking neighbors about their work schedules. Background check companies called with unusual verification requests. The private investigators my family hired weren't subtle, creating an atmosphere of paranoia that I had to address in an all-hands meeting to reassure my team. Victoria's critical mistake came through arrogance. She'd become so confident in her plan that she started bragging to her inner circle about the tech company she'd soon acquire. One of those confidants, Melissa Armstrong, happened to be married to our head of development. The pillow talk made its way back to me, including Victoria's exact words, "By Christmas, I'll own everything Madison built." She just doesn't know it yet. The evidence mounted into an undeniable pattern. My family wasn't just trying to destroy me, they were trying to steal everything I'd created while maintaining their public image as victims. The cognitive dissonance required to attack someone while claiming to be attacked by them was staggering. But their desperation made them sloppy, and every move they made added to the paper trail that would eventually bury them. The gala approached like a storm system on radar, promising spectacular destruction. They'd planned their perfect celebration, surrounded by everyone who mattered in their world, never imagining that their discarded daughter might have plans of her own. The stage was set for a revelation that would shatter their carefully constructed reality and expose the rot beneath their golden facade. The Forbes exclusive went live at 6 a.m. on the morning of my parents' anniversary gala. The headline, "Invisible Heiress Builds Billion-Dollar AI Empire, While Family Calls Her a Failure," dominated business news within minutes. The article, featuring a stunning photoshoot in my penthouse office, revealed everything: my identity as Neuralink's CEO, the company's $3 billion valuation, and most devastatingly, my parents' campaign to destroy their own daughter's success. By 7 a.m., my parents' phones were in meltdown. Father's assistant called me in tears, saying she couldn't handle the volume of calls from investors, partners, and media outlets. Mother's social media accounts exploded with thousands of comments ranging from shock to outrage. The carefully maintained Whitmore image shattered like fine china dropped from a skyscraper. The business implications hit before breakfast. Whitmore investments opened down 12% as investors processed the news that Robert Whitmore had been bad-mouthing the CEO of one of tech's most innovative companies, who happened to be his own daughter. By noon, the stock had dropped 40% with no floor in sight. Major clients publicly announced they were reviewing their relationships with a firm whose leadership showed such poor judgment. Victoria's live-streamed meltdown became instant internet legend. Unable to process the revelation, she went live on Instagram from her car, mascara streaming, ranting about how I'd stolen her rightful position. She was supposed to be nothing, she screamed at her phone. "I'm the successful one. I'm the one who followed the rules." The unhinged performance, viewed 12 million times in 6 hours, destroyed any credibility she'd maintained. Memes appeared within minutes, turning her tantrum into viral comedy gold. Mother's charity board positions evaporated like morning dew. The Boston Children's Hospital, Museum of Fine Arts, and Symphony Orchestra all received hundreds of complaints about keeping someone who'd emotionally abused a successful female CEO on their boards. By afternoon, resignation requests had been delivered to the Whitmore mansion. Organizations that had courted her donations now treated her like radioactive waste. The morning talk shows picked up the story with gleeful intensity. Here's a woman who built a $3 billion company while her parents told everyone she was unemployed, one host marveled. Business analysts dissected the short-sightedness of dismissing tech careers, while others focused on the psychological abuse hidden behind wealthy facades. My story became a rallying cry for every child whose parents couldn't see their worth beyond traditional metrics. The gala venue turned into a disaster zone. Half the confirmed guests canceled within hours of the Forbes article. Those who attended came for the spectacle, not support. The Ritz-Carlton staff reported awkward atmospheres, half-empty ballrooms, and guests spending more time on phones reading about the scandal than celebrating the anniversary. The photos that emerged showed my parents forcing smiles while their world crumbled around them. My employees' surprise appearance at the gala was orchestrated perfectly. 200 Neuralink staff members, wearing company shirts, gathered in the Ritz-Carlton lobby. They didn't protest or disrupt. They simply stood as witness to their CEO's truth. Many held signs with supportive messages: "Madison built our future," "Real success can't be inherited," and "Neuralink stands with our CEO." Security couldn't remove them since they'd booked rooms as paying guests. Daniel's art exhibition opened simultaneously in the gallery across from the hotel. The paintings I'd seen in his portfolio now hung under spotlights, each titled with devastating simplicity: "The Invisible Daughter," "Golden Child," "Broken Soul," "Trust Fund Thief," and "Love Conditional." Art critics, drawn by the scandal, found powerful commentary on generational trauma and privilege as poison. The opening became Boston's most attended gallery event in years, with proceeds benefiting abuse survivors. The live interview on CNBC that afternoon let me tell my story with calm precision. I wore a simple black suit, my grandmother's pearls the only jewelry, and spoke without notes or anger. My parents told me to go live in the streets at Thanksgiving because they thought I was a failure. They never bothered to ask what I did for a living. They never Googled their own daughter. That level of disinterest in your child's life speaks volumes about what kind of parents they really were. The viral moment came when the interviewer asked about my wealth. Your parents said you were unemployed and living in squalor. Can you clarify your actual position? I smiled slightly. They told me to go live in the streets. Ironically, I could buy the entire block their house sits on. But I'm not interested in real estate that comes with that much emotional baggage. Celebrity support flooded social media. Tech leaders shared their own stories of family rejection over career choices. Feminist icons praised my quiet strength in building success without seeking validation. Abuse survivors thanked me for showing that family wealth didn't prevent emotional violence. The hashtag Invisible Heiress trended globally as people shared stories of being dismissed by those who should have supported them most. The IRS investigation announcement at 4 p.m. felt like divine timing. Federal agents arrived at Whitmore Investments during the gala's cocktail hour, serving warrants and seizing computers. The timing wasn't coincidental. Cooper Hamilton had ensured authorities knew exactly when maximum impact would occur. Guests watched through windows as investigators carried boxes of evidence from the building bearing my father's name. Legal consequences began immediately. The Massachusetts Attorney General announced investigations into embezzlement allegations regarding my trust fund. The Security and Exchange Commission opened an inquiry into Whitmore Investments' accounting practices. The State Bar informed Victoria her license was under review pending investigation of her fraudulent legal filings. The empire my parents built on appearances crumbled under the weight of their own crimes. The gala's grand finale came when the video screens, meant to display a tribute to my parents' marriage, instead showed security footage of them throwing me out at Thanksgiving. Some enterprising Neuralink employee had submitted it to the AV team as part of the Family Memories montage. The ballroom watched in stunned silence as Judith Whitmore screamed at her daughter to go live in the streets, while Robert physically pushed me out the door. The timestamp proved this happened just days ago, not in some distant past they'd grown beyond. Monday morning brought my parents to Neuralink's headquarters, their first time seeing the empire their failure daughter had built. The building's soaring glass facade reflected their diminished figures as they approached, designer clothes unable to hide the desperation radiating from every step. Security alerted me to their presence while employees gathered at windows, witnessing the people who'd rejected their CEO coming to grovel. The security footage played on every screen in the building as they entered, an endless loop of their Thanksgiving cruelty providing context for their arrival. Father's face cycled through rage, disbelief, and calculation as he finally understood the scope of what he'd thrown away. Mother clutched her Hermes bag like a life preserver, her perfectly styled hair unable to disguise the panic in her eyes as employees whispered and pointed. The executive conference room where we met had been carefully staged. Financial documents covered the table, showing Neuralink's valuations, contracts, and partnerships. The wall displayed photos of me with tech luminaries, government officials, and Fortune 500 CEOs, all the connections they'd claimed I'd never make. The contrast between their crumbling empire and my thriving one was laid out in undeniable detail. Father's opening salvo was predictably delusional. Madison, there's been a misunderstanding. Obviously, we invested in your education, supported your interests. I'm sure my lawyers can prove I'm entitled to a significant stake in this company as your initial investor. The entitlement was breathtaking, trying to claim credit for success he'd actively tried to prevent. I slid a folder across the table containing every receipt, every document showing how I'd built Neuralink without a penny of Whitmore money. Actually, Father, you'll find Grandmother Eleanor was my only family investor. You remember, the inheritance you tried to control? Here's documentation of every attempt you made to block my access to those funds. Your lawyers might find it interesting reading, especially the forged signatures. Mother tried emotional manipulation next, tears flowing on cue. How could you do this to me? After everything I sacrificed, raising you, giving you opportunities, you've destroyed our reputation, our friendships, everything we built. The narcissism was stunning, making herself the victim while sitting in the building her daughter created despite her opposition. You told people I was unemployed while stealing from my trust fund. I responded calmly. You threw me out at Thanksgiving for embarrassing you. You've spent years telling anyone who'd listen that I was your greatest disappointment. Which part of that sounds like motherly sacrifice? The tears stopped instantly, replaced by the cold calculation I remembered from childhood. Victoria burst in uninvited, her usual polish cracked beyond repair. Her designer suit was wrinkled, her makeup smeared, her hands shaking as she attempted to salvage something from the wreckage. Madison, we're sisters. Blood. Surely you won't let them destroy our parents over some misunderstanding? I'll admit I was harsh, but we can work together now. Whitmore sisters in tech, imagine the possibilities. Like when you stole Blake to prove you could? I asked. Or when you hired investigators to stalk me. Maybe when you tried to have me declared mentally incompetent to steal my company. Each question landed like a physical blow, her face crumbling as she realized I knew everything. You're not my sister, Victoria. You're a predator who happened to share my DNA. Blake appeared in the doorway, serving Victoria with divorce papers in front of our parents. I filed for divorce on grounds of blackmail and extortion. My lawyers have copies of everything, Victoria. Every photo, every threat, every manipulation over 7 years. Madison gave me the courage to stop being your victim. He turned to me with genuine gratitude before leaving Victoria sputtering in shock. Daniel entered next, wheeling in a portfolio of his paintings. These are titled exhibits in the criminal case against you, he announced. Child abuse leaves evidence, even if it's emotional. Each painting documents specific incidents of neglect, manipulation, and cruelty. My therapist has validated them as contemporaneous records of abuse. The district attorney finds them very compelling. Father's composure finally cracked completely. This is insane. You're destroying your own family over childhood grudges. So we pushed you hard, expected excellence. That's not a crime. His voice rose to the same volume he'd used during boardroom tirades, but here, in my domain, it carried no power. Pushing children to excel is parenting, I corrected. Telling one child she's worthless while stealing her inheritance is criminal. The FBI agrees, by the way. They'll be visiting your offices again this afternoon. I'd suggest having lawyers present, though I hear your legal team resigned en masse this morning. Mother made one last desperate play, pulling out a checkbook. How much? Everyone has a price. What will it take to make this go away? 10 million? 20? We'll sell everything, give you whatever you want, just stop this vendetta. She actually started writing zeros, her hand shaking so badly the numbers were illegible. I made 25 million last year alone, I informed her. By next year, it'll be 50. I don't need your money, I never did. What I needed were parents who saw my worth beyond their narrow definitions of success. That's the one thing you never had to give. The check fell from her numb fingers as the reality finally penetrated. The family meeting I'd prepared for was simple. My terms for any future relationship were non-negotiable. Full public acknowledgement of their abuse, restitution for stolen funds, psychiatric treatment for their narcissistic behaviors, and zero contact with my business. They could rebuild their lives with honesty or continue living in delusion, but either way, they'd do it without me. This is blackmail. Father roared. You're trying to control us, just like you claim we did to you. The projection was textbook narcissism, accusing me of their own behaviors while refusing accountability. Even facing complete destruction, they couldn't admit fault or show genuine remorse. Victoria's final cruelty came as a parting shot. Fine, you win. But I want you to know I burned everything of yours from childhood. Every photo, every award, every stupid coding project you were so proud of. I erased you from our family history years ago. The admission was meant to wound, but it only confirmed what I'd always known. I was never family to them, just competition. Good, I replied simply. I've built a better history without you. The dismissal hit harder than anger would have. They'd expected rage, tears, some emotional response to validate their importance. My indifference to their cruelty showed them they'd already lost the only power they'd ever had, the ability to hurt me. Security escorted them out as they shouted threats and promises in equal measure. Father vowed lawsuits while mother wailed about ungrateful children. Victoria screamed that she'd destroy me, apparently forgetting she'd already tried and failed. The building's cameras captured their final exit, three figures diminished by their own choices, leaving the empire they'd never believed possible. As their car disappeared into Boston traffic, I felt the last chains of obligation fall away. They'd chosen pride over their daughter, maintaining their delusions rather than accepting responsibility. The Whitmores who'd raised me were gone, revealed as strangers who'd worn familiar faces. My real family waited in the conference room. James, my employees, Daniel, and Blake, all people who'd chosen to stand with me when blood relations failed. 6 months later, Neuralink Solutions went public with an initial valuation of $5 billion. The IPO launch party filled the Four Seasons ballroom with legitimate celebration, a stark contrast to the hollow performances I'd endured at family events. Employees who'd believed in the company from the beginning became millionaires overnight, their loyalty rewarded with more than my parents ever offered, genuine appreciation and shared success. The chosen family I'd built surrounded me with authentic support. James stood as my brother in every way that mattered, having weathered the startup storms and family drama with unwavering loyalty. My leadership team, once strangers bound by NDAs, had become confidants who knew my story and chose to help write better chapters. We celebrated in the penthouse that had been my refuge, now filled with people who actually wanted me there. Daniel's art career exploded beyond our wildest dreams. The exhibition I'd sponsored traveled internationally, breaking attendance records while raising millions for abuse survivors. His pieces hung in major museums, their dark beauty resonating with viewers who recognized their own pain in his brushstrokes. "You gave me permission to tell our truth," he told me at his MoMA opening. "That's worth more than any inheritance they hoarded." Therapy became my twice-weekly sanctuary, a space to excavate the damage and rebuild on solid ground. Dr. Sarah Chin, recommended by Cooper Hamilton, specialized in family trauma among high achievers. "Your success wasn't despite your family's cruelty," she explained during a breakthrough session. "It was your psyche's way of proving your worth to yourself when they wouldn't see it. Now you get to succeed for healthier reasons." The Whitmore empire collapsed with spectacular thoroughness. Father's investment firm declared bankruptcy after clients fled and legal fees mounted. The IRS seized their assets for tax evasion while Massachusetts prosecutors built criminal cases. Mother sold her real estate portfolio at fire sale prices, desperate for liquid capital to pay lawyers. They moved from their Back Bay mansion to a 2-bedroom apartment in Quincy, their fall from grace complete. Victoria's situation proved even more pathetic. The bar suspended her license pending investigation into fraud and ethics violations. Without Blake's political connections or family money, she discovered her actual worth in the job market. The last update I received from mutual acquaintances placed her working retail at Nordstrom, selling designer goods she could no longer afford. The golden child learned what building from nothing actually meant. My charitable foundation launched with $10 million in initial funding, focused on supporting young people escaping toxic families. The Eleanor Whitmore Foundation, named for the only family member who'd shown unconditional love, provided scholarships, therapy, and mentorship to those navigating success without family support. Hundreds of applications flooded in, proving my story wasn't unique, just uniquely visible. Love arrived quietly in the form of Ethan Park, a software engineer who joined Neuralink after the IPO. He knew my history but saw my future, treating me as Madison the person rather than Madison the survivor or CEO. Our first date involved debugging code together, finding compatibility in shared interests rather than status symbols. He met Daniel before knowing about my wealth, earning my brother's approval through genuine kindness. A letter surfaced from grandmother Eleanor's estate, hidden in a safety deposit box with instructions to deliver it when I no longer needed my parents' approval. Her handwriting brought tears as I read, "My dearest Madison, if you're reading this, you've discovered your worth isn't determined by those who refuse to see it. I've watched you bloom despite their attempts to prune you into their shape. Build something magnificent, darling. Show them what Whitmore women can accomplish when we define success for ourselves." The final attempt at reconciliation came through Cooper Hamilton. My parents, now facing criminal charges, wanted to negotiate a settlement. Their letter, clearly written by lawyers, offered hollow apologies and requested financial assistance. They'd even stooped to claiming elderly abuse, painting themselves as victims of their vindictive daughter. The manipulation was so transparent it almost seemed satirical. My response was a single document, a receipt showing I'd donated $1 million to the Eleanor Whitmore Foundation in their names. The tax write-off was theirs, but the money would help young people escape families like ours. It was more than they deserved, but exactly what grandmother would have wanted, transforming their legacy of pain into others' possibilities. Thanksgiving arrived with new traditions. My penthouse hosted 30 people who'd become family through choice rather than chance. Neuralink employees, childhood friends who'd resurface after the truth emerged, Daniel with his partner Marcus, Blake with his new girlfriend, and Ethan by my side. We cooked together, laughed freely, and created memories unmarred by judgment or performance. During dinner, I stood to give a toast, something forbidden at Whitmore gatherings unless you were father. Last Thanksgiving, I was told to go live in the streets by people who should have been my safety net. This year, I'm surrounded by those who caught me when I fell and helped me build wings. To chosen family, to seeing each other's worth, and to tables where everyone has a voice. The letters from survivors kept coming, thousands of messages from people who'd found strength in my story. Young women in tech who'd been dismissed by traditional families, entrepreneurs whose parents couldn't understand new economies, artists like Daniel whose creativity was seen as failure. Each message reinforced that sharing our truth created ripples beyond our imagination. My parents made the news once more when they were convicted of embezzlement and tax evasion. The judge, noting their complete lack of remorse, sentenced them to federal prison. Victoria's testimony against them, a desperate attempt to save herself, only highlighted the family's moral bankruptcy. They'd turned on each other the moment consequences arrived, proving loyalty was another thing they'd never possessed. Standing on my terrace as snow began falling on Manhattan, I reflected on the journey from rejection to redemption. The pain they'd inflicted had forged strength they couldn't break. The love they'd withheld taught me to recognize it genuinely offered. Their prophecy of failure became permission to define success on my terms. You know what the best revenge really is? Ethan asked, joining me with hot chocolate. It's not the money or the success. It's that you're genuinely happy. They spent their lives performing happiness while you built the real thing. His words captured what I discovered. True wealth meant freedom from needing their validation. To those still trapped in others' definitions of worth, remember this. The voices telling you you're not enough are often projecting their own limitations. Your path doesn't have to mirror theirs. Your success can look different and still be valid. The family that rejects your authentic self makes room for those who'll celebrate it. My name is Madison Whitmore. I'm the daughter who was told to live in the streets, who built an empire instead. I'm proof that sometimes the greatest gift toxic people can give you is their absence. Your worth isn't determined by those who refuse to see it. Sometimes you have to parent yourself, choose your family, and write your own definition of success. The street they told me to live on? I didn't just buy the block. I built something better, a life where love isn't conditional, success isn't narrow, and family isn't limited to blood. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, dismissed for choosing a different path, or told you'll never amount to anything, know that you're not alone. Your dreams are valid, your choices matter, and your worth isn't negotiable. What's your story of overcoming family rejection? How did you find your chosen family? Share in the comments below, because every story of triumph helps someone else find their way. If this resonated with you, please like and subscribe to hear more stories of resilience and redemption. Share this with someone who needs to hear that their worth isn't determined by those who refuse to see it. Until next time, remember, the best revenge is a life well lived, surrounded by people who see your light even when others try to dim it.